If tomorrow all the things were gone, I'd work for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm your host, Domenic Volpe. This is another edition of the Volpe Report. I'm here tonight with a special guest. Once again, this is the second time on. It's an update for the City of Peekskill. This is Mary Foster, Mayor of the City of Peekskill.
Hey, Dominic.
Welcome, Mary.
Thank
It's
you.
been, I believe...
Several months.
Several months, we'll call it.
Right.
A couple of things have transpired in the meantime, so let's get started. What's new in Peekskill? Let's start with, there's a lot of activity, a lot of building, a lot of
Right.
construction. Let's start with the James Street parking garage. What's going on?
Okay, I figured you wanted to start with us tearing up the streets in front of your business, but we'll start with the
no, I'm
James Street
saving that for
garage
number
inside.
5 over here. So,
There has been a lot going on in Peekskill, and like any other construction project that goes on, there's the things that go well and the things that don't go well and the things that no one ever can explain, whatever happened to them. But for those who come into Peekskill a lot, there is the 5-6 level parking garage right in the center of town. We refer to it as the James Street garage. Built probably 30 years ago.
Right.
Was built to age to a wonderful patina steel. Instead it rusts, it looks like heck, and structurally it needed to be repaired. And so we have finished all of the major repairs structurally to the garage. And right now we are talking with local artists and a number of other contractors about ways to improve the facade of the garage. So now that it has new lighting, it has new concrete platforms, it has new rebar, it has new steel structures, we're now looking at...
well, let's start
how
with
does it look
that because I don't think everyone really understands to what level the damage was. I mean,
Right.
they had to go basically back down to all the floors had to be
Right.
literally knocked out, broken up through rebar, through old concrete.
Probably we ended up replacing 2/3 of all of the concrete floors. We had originally planned, based on the original testing that was done, to have to replace the corrugated steel that is the ceiling. We knew we were replacing all the electrical wiring and the lights, and assumed that we were not replacing more than 50% of the concrete ramps
Right.
themselves.
Correct.
When the work started, we realized that when this was built a few years ago, a couple of decades ago, the contractor cheated. I mean, there wasn't enough rebar done through all of the ramps, and so we
the
needed to do
support
a lot
structure
of work.
itself was done in
Well,
shoddy
it
performance.
was done shoddily, and so our engineer made sure that all of the work was redone, so that all the concrete ramps were poured. But then we went back and checked the rebar in any of the other exposed areas to make sure that it looked like there was all of the appropriate
so that
connecting
it's
rebar.
currently
It was a huge project.
up to date and up to code and
And actually,
all
we were
that.
told it will exist for another 50 years.
Oh, okay. So,
Okay, so we've significantly extended the life of it. We have put in brand new elevators, and so we're now down to really the aesthetics and the exterior and making it look like an attractive place.
what was the price tag, more or less? Is it still...
We probably have spent about $1.5 million on all of the structural work. A new garage that would house the number of cars that we have there would easily cost us $10 million.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it.
So the renovation was clearly the right...
No, it was needed too. It was significantly less than what it would have cost to tear down the garage and
put up
build
a
a whole
brand
brand
new
new
one.
one.
Gotcha.
And so now we're looking at significant price tags, anywhere from $500,000 to $2.5 million in dealing with the facade improvements to it.
Gotcha.
We've heard 3 different plans from different architects, and we hear another plan Monday night that would involve the local arts community in painting and restoring the exterior.
What would you give the timeline on either contracts going out and then to completion?
It will probably, to do the facade work, it would probably, this is June, it probably wouldn't be completed until January.
Oh, okay.
Whichever way if we do.
Anywhere
Whichever way
to
we ended up
6 to
doing.
9
It
months.
could, right, it could anywhere be from 6 to 8 months to finish the facade work.
Right.
But it structurally works.
Structurally, and
And
it's
so-
already back in business in a sense.
It went
Yes.
back in business about 5-6 weeks ago. We just finished looking at, through our parking Commission. The driving patterns, one-way streets, parking, diagonal, parallel.
I know, I'm on the commission.
I know. And so,
Thank you.
you know, how we have free spaces, where we put employee parking for those people who work in the city. And so we're putting all those new proposals in place as we speak.
Just as a businessman perspective, when we had to take all the cars out onto the street,
Right.
and like especially Broad Street was affected, and Brown especially,
Right.
where now the cars are like angle parking.
Right.
You know, it did. I mean, it was effective. I think even, you know, it's not dangerous, but you know, it's a little more care involved because cars are coming out at an angle. But it did show that Peekskill was kind of vibrant at the same
Right.
time, and people were using it.
Yeah, there were a lot of people.
And for all the displacement that was going on,
Right.
I thought the people in general, the business in general, they really held on, and it, you know, everybody really, they did a pretty good job, both on the city side and also business, and even
Right.
the people using it. I think, and even to this day, I think I still see a lot of cars. I think they still want to use it. You know what I mean? Even though, you know, the parking garage is
Right.
still up and running.
Right.
It's a lot of people still like being out on the street anyhow. So you know.
Well, I agree, and I think what the Parking Commission has really done a good job in doing is looking at the variety of parking needs that we have, and having our street level parking open for customers and consumers, and moving employee and business owner parking into the upper levels of the parking structure.
Right, right, yeah.
You could do, I think it was suggested we do the first level or the first two levels free, and then the next two as, you know, employee permit parking.
Sure, we even moved things around like metered parking, like a 5-10 minute to areas where you wanted quick high turnover,
Right.
as compared to long-term parking for people who are going to park there, like workers are going to be from
Right.
8 in the morning until 5 at night. So
Right.
yeah, and it's important for business owners and even tenants up, you know, in second
Right.
and third floors.
And so we will still keep some diagonal parking, and actually, based on the recommendations, we will turn Bank Street, that's the street for those who come into the city's farmers market or antique market, we will turn that into a one-way street with diagonal parking. James Street will be a two-way street, and we won't have diagonal parking there. But since Division Street is one-way heading north, Bank Street will be one-way heading in south, so you could do a complete loop if you wanted to.
Right.
But the biggest issue is signage. And so I know the BID has been working closely with the city staff in looking at how to do better signage,
Right.
so that we better designate the different areas of the downtown. But more importantly, people need to know where the municipal parking is, how to get there. And that will go hand in hand with hanging flower baskets
That's
along
right.
the new poles, and a whole new look to the streetscapes coming in on Main Street
Sure, with
and
the
North Division
beautification,
Street.
Main Street grant and all that.
Right.
That is not, it's.
So once we can get past all the roads being dug up.
Yeah, I think we'll be looking good, pretty good and pretty,
Right,
that's
but
for
Division
sure.
Street came out very nice.
Yes.
It's just about finished.
Yes.
With the new sidewalks and pavers and curbs
That's
and
where
lights.
I was going to go. Let's talk about that. So the streetscape with Main and Division. So basically, they had to rip up part of the road in many cases
Right.
for infrastructure development.
Right.
Then they had to do sidewalk and even the old cobblestone or
Right.
the pavers,
Right.
and redo Division to Main.
Right, they did North Division Street between Main and Park, so kind of
Correct.
from the gazebo
Right,
to the main
north.
intersection. And then Main Street, we went down as far as basically Kathleen's Tea Room
Right.
to the west, and east as far as right before the neighborhood, the Hudson River Health
Hudson
Center.
River Health Center, correct.
But on the other side of the street, in front of Pugsley Park and the church, the city continued doing the lights and pavers down all the way to the to Broad Street.
Oh.
And since there is a new Walgreens proposed on the corner of Broad and Main, they will be doing some of the streetscape improvements there.
Once they do their own
Yes,
renovations.
so part of what they will be doing will improve the historic lights and sidewalks and curbs there. And then right across the street from that is where we're looking at the proposed central firehouse. And so
Right.
clearly we'd be doing improvements to the streetscapes through there.
I think
And
the
so-
call had always been that Main Street was the gateway into
Right.
the city, and it seemed like it was the last one, though, getting any
Right.
sort of attention for years.
Right.
So,
And we've made it a real priority. And
Yep.
we are seeing it pay off because as the city is investing money and matching some of the county money that's gone into there, John Hall came up with $665,000 for us to put into Main Street improvements as well. And we're now watching private individuals purchase buildings down along there. So the old Bensky's building, the one
Right.
right by Busy Corner, has just been bought. They have their site plan approvals through the historic board to do all the renovations for
Sure.
that building.
That